Hello, class. This will be a short video just to kind of give you an overview of Unit 3. Um, Much like Unit 2, where it was topics that most people have not seen before, I think there's a good chance that most people have not dealt with the Unit 3 content. So I just wanted to make sure to kind of give you an overview, let you know what's coming. Um, so we're going to be dealing with Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. Part of Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is logic and truth tables. Chapter 4 is number systems. Um, so when I say logic and truth tables, it's much like Chapter 2, where it's about the logic of math, and you're learning a language. Many of the topics are going to be related to what you learned in Chapter 2. So for those of you that figured out the approach to Chapter 2 and learning your definitions, applying those, you'll be able to apply that same process to Chapter 3. But since we're doing truth tables instead of sets and Venn diagrams, we're basically using different language. Um, in my notes at one point, I put a site trying to learn French and Spanish. Those are both Romantic languages, so they have the same roots. But there's some overlap that helps, but there's also overlap that's a bit confusing. So we're still dealing with the same themes. It's logic, applying definitions. I mean, there is no arithmetic or algebra in Chapter 3. Okay. And we're only doing the first three sections. Um, to me, it's kind of overkill to do both set theory and logic as full units. So we're just gonna kind of dip our toe into the water of the truth tables. It may not feel that way by the time we finish with section 3.3, but yeah, we're just kind of doing the basics of the truth table stuff. And then we will get into chapter 4. Chapter 4 is number systems. Um, what that means is we're going to do a little bit of history of math. We're going to talk a little, like Roman numeral system, the Babylonian system. A large part of what we're doing in chapter 4 is converting between number bases. So like going from base 10 to binary, base 10 to base 5, base 8, that sort of thing. If you're wondering why we're doing that, many years ago, before I got here, when they decided on the topics for this course, they were very heavily weighted towards education majors. So for those of you that are education majors and you're going on to like math structures, you're going to see all this content again. To be honest, I don't know why we're covering this stuff when they're going to, you see it in that class. I'd much rather be teaching like a statistics intro or like a personal finance. So we can do percents and like home loans and car loans, but that's out of my hands. Uh, but what's not out of my hands is I'm not going to get overly in depth into this content. So we're going to kind of try to keep it straightforward. So that's what we're doing for Unit 2. Let me bring up the schedule in Blackboard so you can kind of see how it plays out. All right. So some of you are finished with test two. Some of you are taking it later this evening. I'm making this video like a little before 7 on Sunday at night. And so it may not impact you very much if you're a purely online student, but next week is fall break. So that means campus is shut Thursday and Friday. So it's kind of a short week. So next week my in-person classes are doing 3-1, seeing how far we get 3-2. Then after fall break, we'll do 3-3. And so how that kind of flows is, if you remember from chapter 2, like 2.1 and 2.2 were a lot of definitions. And then 2.3, we got into set operations and then our Venn diagrams, and got more in depth with 2.4 and 2.5. So chapter 3.1, that is most of our like definition sort of stuff. 3.2, we get into the set operation equivalent of the logic, the truth table logic, and then 3.3, we actually get into truth tables. And then, again, there's a lot we're not doing with truth tables because I just want to kind of, again, I don't think it's overkill since we've already done logic with chapter 2. It's still logic. If you understand union and intersection and complement from chapter 2, you'll be able to apply those same concepts in different verbiage with chapter 3. And then after chapter 3, we get into chapter 4. So positional number systems, that's just a fancy way for saying, our decimal number system. Um, and so, like 4.1 and 4.4, those are sort of the history aspect of that section. And then 4.2 number bases, that's just like converting from binary to base 10 or base 5 or base 8. Computations are um, those are like, I think we're just doing extract. I don't think we're even multiplying. I think I'm just keeping it to adding and subtracting. That's sort of like with scientific notation. You have to be able to convert from scientific notation and back, and then be able to do operations with it. Same idea, but it's definitely going to be messier. So even though there's no algebra in this unit, we do get into definitely some arithmetic in chapter 4. And I will say that chapter 3, the logic there, it starts getting, I don't want to say the word tricky to try to scare anybody, but you definitely have to do better at paying attention to detail than you might have had to in chapter 2. All right. Um, and again, why are we doing the logic and truth table sort of stuff? When I think of logic and truth tables, to me, that's a topic that's big these days is AI. Well, to train AI, that's the sort of logic behind it. Um, and when you ask AI questions, you can ask general questions and get general answers. But if you're trying to like do some really specific research and wanting like specific details, this is something that may help you understand kind of how AI looks for information and answers it. And so, um, that's the start of, I think, understanding maybe what's going on with behind the scenes with how AI is programmed. Not that I've programmed AI, but I know just in general, how this sort of stuff works because I'm a sci-fi person. I have been all my life, so now it's become real. But that is unit 2, or sorry, unit 3. It's logic and truth tables and number systems. And so our test, we got a test every 4 weeks. And so November 3rd is going to be our third test. And then before you know it, we'll be in December and we'll be talking finals. A couple other things I want to point out in Blackboard. As you know, I've moved the resources for Unit 3 up. So you don't have to go as far. I've noticed only about half the students are watching my lecture videos, which, that's purely up to you. I mean, a lot of this information is out there in multiple forms. I do want to throw out there though that, and you probably get this if you're watching this video, but I've been teaching this class for 25 years or so now. I'm the one making your tests. So when I'm going through those videos, I know where students are struggle. I know how I'm writing the test. And so I give you information that's pertinent to the test, not just general information that you're going to find on the topic. Something else that I would recommend that you may not, I don't think very many people have done is the PowerPoint. Since this is such definition based stuff, but it's like very specific detail oriented, I would definitely recommend like looking through those PowerPoints for chapter 3. Not so much chapter 4, unless you're a PowerPoint person, but those chapter 3 PowerPoints are definitely something I think would come in handy for a lot of you to help you kind of understand, on top of the videos that you're going to have. And as always, that right now I just have the 3.1 MATLAB videos in there. Now these are all really short. I think the last one is like 4 minutes, but the rest of these are like 1 to 2 minutes. Those are specific examples. And so you'll have those on top of what I'm doing. The other thing that I'm changing up a little bit is it seemed like a lot of people tend to like the definition page or definition handout that I did. So I am doing that for chapter 3. Now it's not just definitions, it's like definitions and key ideas. And then the lecture outlines that I have are geared more towards just the examples related to the homework. Okay. So that's a little bit different. I think having the 2 documents will make the flow of the videos go a little bit better. We'll see. But yeah, I definitely recommend that you watch these videos before you do the homework, because I'm, Math Lab is good about skill practice. It's not good about the whys and the big picture, and I try to address those in my videos for everyone. All right, that's all I have. And like I said, this is Sunday. If you're when I'm getting this posted, so tomorrow I'll be getting those videos for 3.1 and 3.2, and they may be up by the time you see this. But that's Unit 3. Got more logic and some history of math. Okay. All I have. Have a good day.